One of Tesla's biggest claims to fame is their autopilot and full self-driving features. Tesla makes some fantastic electric vehicles, the best in the industry, but many people purchase a Tesla for the promise that their car will drive itself one day. Companies like Waymo and Cruise Automation publicly demo their cars driving on busy city streets by themselves, but Tesla has only shown a few short clips of their cars doing the same thing. Is it possible that the Tesla that you own today will be able to drive itself, and how will it get there? My name is Andrew, and in my day-to-day job, I'm a software engineer. I work with systems that both help train as well as run machine learning models, which are the same types of technologies that Tesla actually uses to enable their full self-driving features. I want to explain how autopilot works today, and how Tesla is at an advantage and a disadvantage in the industry. This series of videos will be easy enough to understand even if you don't work in machine learning or software development, but still will go pretty in-depth into how these systems actually work, especially Tesla's full self-driving system, so that you can see how Tesla is making progress and how your car can drive itself in the future. In this introductory video, I want to cover what full self-driving actually means to Tesla and to other companies, and what full self-driving cars are capable of today. First, I think it's important to talk about the two main types of approaches to building a self-driving car. On one hand, there's companies like Waymo and Cruise Automation, which use a technology called LiDAR. Essentially, this is a laser radar, a device that shoots beams of light out of it and measures how long it takes for that light to reflect back, which tells you how far away something is. The big benefit of LiDAR is that it's very precise, and if you shoot a lot of these beams of light out, you basically get a grid view of the world that tells you how far away the car is from things. LiDAR is much more accurate than regular radar. You may already have a radar-based cruise control system in your car today. In fact, this is how autopilot has been driving for a while now. But radar has significant faults, and is why most radar-based cruise control systems can't stop for traffic at a standstill ahead. Radar also has very limited resolution, meaning that it can't distinguish between multiple objects ahead of it. Because of this, radar often picks up stationary objects like traffic signs, overpasses, and other objects near the road that aren't actually a threat to the car. Instead of letting the car slam on its brakes repeatedly, car manufacturers will actually set up their cruise control to ignore these stationary objects when at high speeds, or use cameras to follow the car in front of you. This means that in normal driving situations, your cruise control system will work fine, but if there's actually something stopped in front of you, your car will ignore it and crash. Then there's Tesla with a camera-based system. Well, there's also Mobileye, but let's focus on Tesla for now. So radar and camera-based systems have this big flaw. So why are Elon Musk and Tesla so anti-LiDAR? Because Elon claims it's expensive and says you need cameras anyways to identify objects, so it's therefore redundant. And I don't think he's entirely wrong. LiDAR is expensive, and even with it on a self-driving car, it's very difficult to understand what an object actually is unless you also have cameras. So Elon's thought is, if the cameras exist to see and identify a pedestrian, and you can use those cameras and a powerful computer to understand how far away that pedestrian is, then why do you actually need LiDAR in the first place? LiDAR does have one key advantage. It's very good at detecting depth accurately, so it solves that issue where cameras may struggle to identify exactly how far away a pedestrian is. With this single image from a camera, it's flat. You don't really have a good way of figuring out how far away a person is. Is that a tall person, or are they just closer to the camera? But this isn't an issue with LiDAR at all, since it's not trying to guess depth based on what a thing is. It's simply measuring how long it takes for light to reflect off of an object. This advantage is why self-driving car companies use it. It doesn't take compute power to understand how far away something is, so it's quicker and safer to avoid obstacles. Well, or so they say. But Elon is approaching self-driving in another way, using machine learning. Elon believes that with their custom computer chip, Tesla cars can entirely understand the world, and therefore doesn't need this redundant distance finder. Instead of bouncing light off of something and figuring out distance, you can use other clues, like parallax over time and varying focal lengths of the cameras on the car, to figure out distance between you and the things around you. Then, because these computers are already so powerful, they can also predict how the world is going to look in 5 seconds, which is a critical component of how we, as humans, drive. There are 4 key stages to autonomously driving a car, or really performing any action intelligently. First is perception. You have to understand the world and how it looks right now. That's a car over there. There's a pedestrian. That road sign says the speed limit is 50 miles an hour. And of course, this also encompasses the more advanced techniques used to judge distance, so that you can not only identify objects, but understand how far away they are. Then is prediction. What is the world going to look like in the future? At the more simple end, you need to understand that a car going 60 miles an hour will be 134 meters down the road 5 seconds from now. You also need to predict human behavior, which is incredibly difficult. Is that pedestrian walking towards the crosswalk, and will they be in the car's path, or are they going to turn at the intersection? Is that car creeping out from the parking lot going to go for it, or are they going to wait for me to go by? We, as humans, use millions of context clues to figure these things out. Where is the pedestrian looking? Is that driver looking at the road and paying attention, or are they just going to go without checking? You can tell a human that they need to be a defensive driver, but that one phrase encompasses millions, if not hundreds of millions of bits of societal knowledge that helps us be safer drivers. Third is planning. Given my understanding of the world right now and what it will look like in the future, what should the car actually do? Again, this can be as simple as let's keep 40% power to the engine to keep the car going 60 miles an hour, or proactively slowing down because the car predicts that there's an unsafe situation ahead. But it's also not about having one single plan. What if someone starts merging into my lane? You need to have a plan to evade danger as well, including an understanding of whether the lane next over is safe to swerve into. There's a pretty famous thought experiment created by MIT called the moral machine. It asks you, a human, what would you do if you were a self-driving car posed with a moral dilemma? For example, you're a car that will get into an accident. You can either swerve left and hit a group of 4 adults, or you can swerve right off a cliff and kill your own occupant. There's some criticism that surrounds this experiment, but I believe the point is still valid. Self-driving cars do need to make plans, and whether or not these plans strictly adhere to what's actually legal or what's the safest is something that we need to consider. Finally, there's execution. This may seem like the most simple out of the 4, but there's actually a lot of nuance behind it. Are the vehicle's control systems redundant? What happens if the software produces a bad plan due to a bug? What happens if the vehicle's power is suddenly cut? There's a lot of engineering that goes into making self-driving cars safe, because when you have a 4,000-pound hunk of metal traveling down the highway at 60 miles an hour without a human in control, it's inherently dangerous. But in fact, it's actually a whole lot less dangerous than a human doing the exact same thing. Hopefully, in this series of videos, I can show you exactly what Tesla is doing to make full self-driving safe and better than you or I. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel, so that you're notified when I come out with new videos in this series. I have a whole ton of content coming on Tesla's autopilot and full self-driving, and I don't think you'll want to miss out. I'll see you next time.